Vril is a secret power that has been recognized internationally under different names. To the Chinese, it is Qi, the Hindus call it Prana, and the Japanese call it Reiki. In all cases, it is considered a natural and an abundant type of energy. Many scholars argue that there is evidence of an unknown energy in many ancient texts. Robert Oppenheimer is a physicist who is the director of the Manhattan Project, which was intended to develop nuclear weapons during World War II. He was very interested in ancient Indian texts in particular. These texts mention a mysterious technology used to fly specific airborne crafts called Vimana, as well as, more remarkably, describes unidentifiable weapons that caused mass destruction. The aftermath of these weapons is remarkably similar to the consequences of nuclear explosions. Some people even claim that prehistoric nuclear explosions are responsible for some of the vast deserts found all over the world today. Also, there's a certain type of glass found throughout western Egypt that is considered to be naturally formed called Libyan desert glass, and it can be dated back as far back as 10,000 BC in some cases. Some scholars theorize that it was formed from the blast of a meteor. However, there is no physical evidence of this, such as the lack of a crater being anywhere near the glass's location. The first detonation of an atomic bomb was by the United States in 1945 at a test site in New Mexico. The blast formed an entire crater full of radioactive glass that was 10 feet deep and 1,000 feet wide. These glass fragments matched the ones that can be found in Western Egypt. Helena Blavatsky was the founder of the Theosophical Society. She described Vril as an ether stream that could be transformed into a physical force. It was this that inspired a group in Germany to name itself the Vril Society, and it was dedicated to mastering this mysterious natural power. They quickly realized the connection to human sexual energy, and they practiced Tantric and Kundalini yoga. Both are considered to come from ancient Aryan civilizations. The secret group formed shortly before the Nazis came to power, and they also drew inspiration from Bulwer Lytton's novel The Coming Race, which was written in 1871. In this novel, there are men who live beneath the surface of the earth, and these men are godlike. They have superpowers, and will come back to rule over the rest of us above the ground someday. A man named Haushofer established something called the Luminous Lodge for the Vril Society. Hitler quickly became a member, and after World War II, the Allies collected every Nazi document, and even 70 years later, they are all still classified. This is suspected to be because of the advanced technology possessed by the Germans at the time. During the war, there was a certain unit in their army called the SSE-4 of the Order of the Black Sun, and it was specifically designated to solving the need for fuel oil by investigating alternative energies. This included fuel sources, motors, and engines, and especially electromagnetic gravitic engines. They succeeded in making one such engine in 1939, and it was called the Thule Triebwerk. It is said to have affected gravity and reduced mass. It was designed to be installed into a Vril disc craft called the Hanabu 1-5. The Hanabu looks remarkably like the usual UFO disc type craft, according to the schematics. Wilhelm Reich was a doctor in the 1930s. He was a controversial guy who made some remarkable discoveries. He's said to have been able to measure something he called orgone energy from people with good health and orgasmic potency. Basically, he was able to measure energy coming from people's orgasms. He made boxes to amplify this energy and got some amazing results that helped a lot of people with health problems. He then added some pipes to his amplifying box, turned them towards the sky, and was suddenly able to make it rain in the desert of Tucson, Arizona on demand. He called this device his cloudbuster, and it also caused grass to grow and thrive in the desert. American scientists rejected his claims, and after a long harassment by the FDA over his medical practices, he was thrown in jail. All of his work was burned, and he was sentenced to 2 years in prison, where he died in 1957 without having committed any crimes. After World War II, secret societies were flourishing, while the best scientists in the world were German, especially in ancient Sumerian and Babylonian archaeology and linguistics. A woman named Maria Orsic was a medium who joined the Vril Society at the time. She claimed she was receiving messages in an unknown language and needed help translating them. The messages seemed to be coming from an orange giant planet in the Taurus constellation, 65 light years away in the Aldebaran star system. According to Maria, the Aryans/Elohim/Elder race began colonizing space 500 million years ago from a distant planet called Marduk. Then they went to Mars, and when they got to Earth, we now know them as the Sumerians. This is what the Vril Society and other groups truly believe to be true. They believed the Aryans went north and their country was called Hyperborea and extended into the middle of the earth. Their capital city was called Ultima Thule and said to be near possibly Greenland or Iceland. Their symbol was the swastika, and it can be found all over the world. It is believed that as they moved north because of the weather changing, and the swastika is evidence of their travels. In 1935, a scientific institute called the Ahnenerbe was created under the Third Reich with the purpose of studying the origins of civilization through archaeology, linguistics, genetics, and culture. Their discoveries revealed that today's civilization stems from the Aryan survivors of the Pleistocene or Ice Age. The Rothschilds have significantly downplayed and ridiculed the findings of the Ahnenerbe since World War II by using the mainstream media. Many of America's greatest thinkers are effectively covering up much of the truth about history. For example, the UN is not motivated by scientific truth and is much more politically focused with the information they provide to the public. The Scandinavians have an ancient legend about Ultima Thule. It is about an ancient fair-skinned people that were before Atlantis or Lemuria. Their land in the north became flooded during the Ice Age, so they ended up moving inside of the earth. Their new home beneath was called Agartha, and their capital city was Shambhala. The ancient Persians have a similar legend, but they call this place Ariana. A man named Karl Haushofer, the one who made the Luminous Lodge for the Royal Society, claims that Thule was actually Atlantis, and when their home was submerged, the people actually split into two groups. One went underground and had evil intentions towards humans, and they called their new home Agartha, and the other ended up in the Himalayas and called themselves Shambhala. The conflict between these people has carried on until this present day, and the ones in Shambhala became the Freemason Zionists. He traveled through Tibet and India and became convinced that this was true. He says that the Dalai Lama is secretly a representative of the people of Agartha and revealed this secret to the German people. This underground land apparently stretches across the whole world, with large parts under the Sahara Desert, parts of South and North America, all the way to Europe as well as the Middle East. Hitler was extremely interested in making contact with this godlike people of all these ancient legends. Some of these legends go on to say that once there is a massive tragedy on the surface that causes a massacre of 2/3 of humanity by either World War III, a natural disaster caused possibly by the reversal of the poles, the Aryan people will finally unite with the rest of the population, and this will be the beginning of 1,000 years of peace, known as the Golden Age, or Age of Aquarius. There are actually many well-known explorers who support this theory of inner Earth. Of course, there's the famous legend of Admiral Byrd, but polar explorers Cook, Peary, Amundsen, Nansen, and Kane all agree that after 70 degrees north, there is warm winds, birds flying normally, and gray snow that melts and leaves behind some sort of pollen or ash. It was reported that there were semi-frozen mammoths, and when examined, they had undigested buttercups in their stomach, which is a flower that only grows in semi-tropical climates. Legends propose that the conflict between the Atlanteans / Hyperboreans culminated into nuclear warfare and caused them to make the decision to depart further into the earth permanently. Some of their people disagreed with this and decided to stay on the surface, spreading out and creating the many cultures we now have today. They became the nobility of the world, and the international presence of the swastika is proof, as well as the presence of Rh-negative blood types is said to trace back to these people, as well as similar linguistic patterns present in completely separate and incredibly different peoples. The UN claims that civilization originated from out of Africa originally, and ever since World War II, that has been a theory supported by universities, not because it's true, but because they are state-funded and tax-exempt. Apparently, the Soviet KGB has released a map that was documented in 1947 and details the inner areas of Agartha. It was reported by Grand Admiral Donitz from Hitler's army in 1944 that the Germans successfully created an impenetrable fortress for the Fuhrer. He compares it to Shangri-La land and revealed that it was achieved by the German submarine fleet. It is very possible that many German elite escaped this place after the end of World War II. The mainstream media announced that Hitler offed himself on April 30th, 1945, when the Russians successfully infiltrated his base. The Russians then collected an apparent piece of his skull and displayed it in Moscow as evidence of his passing. However, in 2009, genetic testing proved that this piece of skull did not belong to Hitler and belonged actually to a 40-year-old woman. Therefore, there isn't a single piece of evidence that Hitler truly passed away that day. The president of Argentina was a known dictator at the time who openly supported Hitler. Many Nazis fled to Argentina, where they were welcomed, and interestingly, Argentina's government is still holding all of its documents under top secret classification. which amplifies suspicion that Hitler possibly found sanctuary in Argentina rather than passing away. Some sources even proclaim that Muhammad, the hero of the Islamic faith, along with his wife Aisha, had light-colored hair and skin, and that this is further evidence of the Aryan people. Scholars have also recently challenged the story of Christopher Columbus and the founding of America. The average story is that Columbus set sail in 1492 in search of gold and riches to enhance the wealth of Spain. However, during this time, Queen Isabella of Spain ordered the eradication of 800,000 Jews who refused to convert to Catholicism. So it is said that Columbus was actually searching for a new home for the Jewish people, and that he was himself secretly a Jew. It is said that America was named after one of Columbus's companions named Amerigo Vespucci. However, he actually changed his name after he returned from the famous voyage. There is now evidence that America was actually named after the Mayan deity Quetzalcoatl, whose native language pronounces his name as Amaruca. This idea would mean that the name America actually means the land of the plumed serpents, and Manly P. Hall also discusses this idea in one of his books. It would make sense if you consider the history of secret societies in the founding of America and the importance of the symbol of the serpent to those secret societies.